Welcome, Impactful Parents. It's time for the Impactful Parenting Podcast, where I give you parenting tips and resources to make you a more impactful parent to your school-age child. I am your host, Kristina Campos. Welcome, Impactful Parents. Today we're going to talk about divorce and how moms and dads deal with the infamous Dad's Summer Month, which is usually in July, that many custody agreements have. Hello, my name is Kristina Campos. I'm founder of The Impactful Parent, and I help parents of school-age children who want to stay one step ahead of their kids to turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I'm a mom of 4, a teacher that's taught every grade from preschool through high school, and today I help moms and dads like yourself to navigate that exhausting, confusing, frustrating, and rewarding world of parenting. So welcome to The Impactful Parent. Today, I also have my co-host with me, Rodrigo Bravo. And Rodrigo is a co-parenting mediator out of the state of Texas. He is a parenting coach, and he is a dad of 2 boys. Rodrigo brings a dad's perspective onto the Impactful Parent stage to give you even more expertise and an added perspective to our parenting topics. I'm excited to dive into this topic today, Rodrigo, because it's July, and so many moms are pulling their hair out because they got to hand over their kids to their dad. I can't wait to talk about it. Let's go.
The month of July is a pretty standard month when it comes to standard order of possessions. A typical standard order of possession here in the state of Texas, and I think for a lot of states across the nation, is a first, third, and fifth weekend, maybe a designated time during the week, but also the entire month of July. It's a pretty standard thing. If you just go in there and get a quick, divorce decree, and both parents are pretty agreeable to everything, you usually get the month of July as the month that the non-custodial parent has a time. But it just depends on how your order of possession is worked. But anyways, that's kind of the standard stuff. But what happens when we actually exchange the kids, right? I don't know, Kristina, did you have that experience during the summer months?
I didn't, because I pretty much have my kids most of the time, all the time. But I will say that the same kind of anxieties that these parents are, moms, I should say, are having when they have to hand over to the dad, I have those too, even on a much smaller basis. I can have an idea, a glimpse of what that might be like, even when I have to give them to their dad for a full week. Like to go to their dad for a full week, that's a big deal for my kids. And I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but that's just how our divorce has been. I can't even imagine a full month. I don't know what I would do with myself on so many different levels, Rodrigo. Like my anxiety, my happiness, my freedom, but then not knowing what to do with myself. Like there would be so much for a full month, all the emotions.
You deserve to have that to yourself. You really do. You should, you as a parent, right? Whenever you hand over your kids, even for the weekend. And I think the particular video that I saw was actually geared towards like the weekend. I think she was making that point. But I happened to see it this month, and I remember how big of a month July was. It was just this kind of this tension growing. And as I mentioned before, I have 2 boys. Both of my boys have different moms. So I had 2 sets of anxiety-riddled parents. Just like wondering, like, is this guy gonna like leave my kid at a state park, or my kid's gonna get fed, this and that. And I thought that's why this video was such a good video to kind of discuss that, because I think a lot of custodial parents, namely moms, have this issue.
And so let's show that video now so the audience can see what we're talking about. This is a great video, and this mom, man, we're gonna resonate. Here it is. Okay, so, oh my gosh, all those feelings. Even if you look in the comments, a lot of these moms are like, yes, oh my God, we are so worried all the time. The concerns just about your children spending an extended period of time with their dad. We shouldn't have to worry. I know we shouldn't, but we do. There's so many anxieties that happen. And truly, for dads that are listening now and don't resonate, we're truly thinking things like, did they brush their teeth? Did they comb their hair? Are they even showering? Are they taking baths? Did they read their book? Did they get their homework done? How well do they feed them? Are they eating out all the time? I mean, and those are the things just off the top of my head, like in the last 2 seconds. Truly, those are the things that are going through our brain. And it's bad. We should be able to trust our co-parent, and we as moms should be able to let it go and really enjoy our free time. And honestly, it's hard. It's really hard. When I do have a week off, let's say my ex-husband takes the kids for a week, there's a couple of things that will happen to me personally. The first one is it usually takes at least 2, 3, 4, 3 days, at least 3 days usually to kind of and decompress and let my guard down and my shoulders to relax, just about not having all of those anxieties that the video is talking about. And I have also found that if he travels with them internationally, you would think that would cause me more anxiety, but it actually has helped me a lot to enjoy more of the full week. Instead, I actually only take about a day to start alleviating some of those anxieties, because I guess my logical brain knows that if anything were to happen, they are so far away, I can't literally drop everything and run to the kids anymore. Like, that's been taken off the plate. Versus if he just has them down the street in the same city or even in the United States, because I know I can hop on a plane and get to Florida, New York, California, wherever he might be with the kids. But internationally, I can't really do that. So it is interesting how that's evolved for me personally through this. And I don't know if any other moms resonate, but that's been my experience with this.
I think that's a very typical, experience, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because there's a lot of things going on in the video. First of all, there's obviously a lack of trust. If you're thinking of all of these things and wondering, are my kids going to be fed? Or is he going to be around? Are they going to be safe? You really need to establish a good line of communication, even at the sake of kind of the personal animosity there may be. I deal with this a lot with parents, co-parents, when they're starting to establish their co-parenting relationship, where there's still some animosity, still some tension, whatever the case may be from their breakup. But they also feel like, oh, my child's not safe with that person, or I don't feel that they're doing the same boundaries that I am, or so forth. I think that really needs to come to terms and say, like, okay, we need to communicate, and we need to communicate at the very base level, at least, so that I am not stressing over that. And really what happens a lot of times is that both parents do trust each other. It's the other stuff that they don't trust that it permeates through everything else. I'm currently working with one couple, and I straight up asked her, go, do you really feel that your child is not safe with him? And she took a long pause, and she's like, no, I think he loves her the same way that I do. And this and that. I go, okay, then. I mean, it sounds like, you have a co-parent that will take care of your daughter, but he'll forget to tell her to brush her teeth. And then I said, okay, I understand that. I want to get to a base where you understand that, hey, your daughter is safe. Now, if you truly feel your daughter's not safe, you need to bring this up, and you need to bring this up immediately, because to make that kind of accusation is pretty heavy, and you need to have some good reasoning behind that. Maybe there's a situation, substance abuse, an unstable family unit on that side. Whatever violence, there's a history of whatever the case may be. You need to resolve that, and that is something that may even involve court intervention. But let's say that's not the case. Okay, let's say that's not the case. For the most part, everything's fine. This and that. You have to develop a trust for your co-parent that they're going to do what's right. They may not do things the way you want them to be done, but they will do things the way that need to be done at a certain level. So maybe the kids don't get up at 9 a.m. like you want them to, right? Right? Maybe, oh my God, you let the kids stay up till 11. Now they come back on Sunday and they're up till 11:30, and I'm the one. Understood. Something you could work on. But is that really something that you really want to battle, right? Food, same thing, okay, maybe, you home cook all the meals and, he brings fast food every single time. Understood. I totally get that. And I'm talking from experience.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, I'm going to feed them. Maybe I won't feed them, the stuff that you want to feed them, but I promise you that they're getting fed. So there has to be some type of compromise in that sense, because, and I'll end right here before I give you the mic and pose a question to you. I think it's so disappointing and just so unsatisfying that moms, for the most part, right? But, custodial parents, but moms, for the most part, when they give their kids up for that weekend, that week, or that month, that they don't get a chance to relax. You just said it yourself. You're on mom mode this entire time, and that involves a lot of stress, a lot of thinking. Like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to take the kids to cross country practice, I got to race back over here, I got to do this. That when you do say like, hey, you're going to go with dad to this weekend, it takes you hours, even days, to finally just relax. Why? Because you're thinking of this. You're having these thoughts permeating. You're just worried and stressed out. When a lot of times I feel that if there's just good communication, even decent communication, you'll learn to relax and let that go and really enjoy that time. You deserve to have a time where you're not a mom. I know you can't turn it off. You're still going to be worried, this and that, but you got to have some time for yourself. You're not mom. The term mom is not a descriptor that pretty much embodies everything who you are, and I really feel for folks, for moms especially, that have to kind of deal with that every single time that they drop off their kids. I'm sorry. And it's not something that you should really kind of have to handle, because I'll end right here. I know that for me as a father that was a non-custodial parent, I truly did not have that feeling. I trusted, and I don't even know if that's really trust, but it was more like I took it for granted, maybe too, especially at the beginning, that she'll figure it out. She's the one that's going to deal with this. She's going to deal with that. I did not have that stress. I promise you, did I love my boys? Yes. Did I go pick them up? Did I do this? But I did not have that true parental stress. I did not feel that until my son lived with me. He was 16 years old and he lived with me. And I finally figured out, like, wow.
You got it.
Yes. Yeah. It wasn't until then that it happened.
You said like the more, moms need that break, but that mom, being a mom, it is so encompassing. It's so overwhelming. It is so everything. And I completely agree that it is not supposed to be everything. It's not supposed to be all of who you are. And I preach about this all the time, about how specifically moms need to separate momhood and their pre-self before parenthood. Like that, you need to have those two, to have that balance, to not be quite as stressed, so I'm preaching that today. But in reality, that mom role is everything in your life. It is 24/7, and it is very hard for women to shut it off. And I think men do a much better, like they just do this so much better. They compartmentalize it. So they can go into dad mode, but they can also go into businessman mode, and they can also go into the bro, I'm a buddy mode, and they're so good at that. And moms, even when we get with our friends, what do we talk about? Our kids. Like, I mean, it's so overwhelming, Rodrigo. To turn that switch off, it just really doesn't happen unless I think that you are constantly practicing it. And it's bad. I want to say it again. It's bad. I don't think it's good to be on mom mode 24/7. And then your child graduates high school and those parents are, they're lost because they had no self-development aside from the parenthood. And we do have to make that really intentional effort to learn how to compartmentalize our different roles and our different stresses. And I think it's interesting that you said it comes down to trust. I think you're right. But I also feel like there's more to it. I definitely trust my ex-husband with the kids. Like, I don't think my kids are going to die. So there's a fundamental trust there that even though I know they're eating way too much fast food or out to eat foods and they're not going to bed probably when they should. And sometimes he might forget to pick them up from wherever they might be because he's not used to the routine. Okay. It's like you just want, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. You want,
but you said right now, fundamental trust.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about such a low barrier though. Hey, I'm sure my co-parent won't kill my kids. I mean, I hope I hope that's like the bottom line. Yes, I think you're right about that. But I don't think that's trust. I really don't think that's trust. I think it really boils down to having a good communication with them and trusting them. Because, I will say this again. My two boys had different moms. Rodrigo's mom and I had such a volatile communication. Even when I was, beyond that, I was really trying my best to establish good communication practices with her. It was just terrible. It was difficult. And would question everything I do.
Don't forget that the podcast is just a small part of what the Impactful Parent offers. Start your journey to becoming a more impactful parent by downloading the Impactful Parent app, available on your phone's app store or by going to theimpactfulparent.com. See you on the inside.
Samuel's mom, Maribel and I, we at the beginning, yes, like, hey, did you get Samuel this and that? Blah, 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 blah. Did you do this? Did you do that? Blah, blah, blah. When Samuel was taking medicines, right? Hey, did you give him his pills? Blah, 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 And I was diligent about it. I was like, hey, I did do it, this and that. And there was a little bit of friction there. Like I would respond by like, hey, I know what I'm doing too, this and that. Blah, blah, blah. So there was a little bit of friction. But eventually we came to trust each other so much that it was a handoff. It really was, okay, she would say, okay, bye, Sammy, I love you. Okay, bye, Mama. Da, 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 da. And if there was something that she needed to add, hey, he has homework, he has a project due on Monday, please make sure he works on it. I'll be like, okay, I'll make sure he works on it. And there was no longer any like, hey, did he work on the project? On the phone. And then me saying like, yes, he's working on a project, stop bothering me. No, we really got to the point where we trusted each other. Now, when I would break that trust, that's when she would come at me. She's like, hey, what happened? He was supposed to do this, da, 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 da. Same thing would occur too now, where I would say like, hey, wasn't Samuel supposed to do this? What happened? This and that. So we would hold each other accountable, but we still trusted that we had our kids' best intentions. Because I never felt like, she was going to put my son in danger. No, I knew that she was a great mom and wouldn't I think that's just such a, such a baseline that if I felt that way, I would be like, yeah, there's something wrong there. And I'll end right here. Go ahead. Huh?
Because do you think that men blindly trust their mom, the co-parenting mom, just because we're female?
Well, I don't know if blindly is the right word. For I would say for me, that's a great question actually. But I would say for me, I think one of the qualities that I always found that I wanted in a partner was that I could see that it could be a good mom. And I don't know if that meant, I just took it for granted or that I trusted my own inner sense, and said, yeah, she's gonna be a great mom. I don't know, because now that I reflect back, I don't even know, and this is no shade. I'm just an objective kind of perspective based on the conversations that my older son and I have now. Little Rodrigo and I talk a lot. I don't even know if she was that great of a mom, Rodrigo's mom. And again, that's just my judgment. She can come onto the podcast and talk all the mess she wants. This and that. But this is based on the conversations that my son and I have, and so it makes me question it a little bit on that sense, But I really feel like Rodrigo, her best interests were for Rodrigo. Like she may not have done it the way that maybe was healthy, and maybe she practiced some behavior that really ended up being damaging to her relationship with Rodrigo. But I don't think that she did it maliciously, and I don't think that she did it in a way that she put my son in danger knowingly or put him in a way that would hurt him. But I never felt like I had to question that. But again, this goes back to the fundamental behavior that we have as custodial and non-custodial parents. When you're a custodial parent, you grow into that role, especially when it comes to women that are custodial parents. They don't have a choice but to become good parents. They really don't. You don't have a choice whether or not to know when the bell rings at school, what time you got to pick up the kids. You don't have a choice as to whether or not the kids are going to get fed or not. And I say that because, again, my experience as a parent of a 16-year-old that moved in with me, actually he was 15, turning 16. Samuel moved in with me, and I suddenly had to worry about food, making breakfast, getting up on time, making sure that he had clothes that were ironed. Did he wash his clothes? Did he brush his teeth? Did he comb his hair? Samuel, go back in there. You still have junk in your eyes. Come on, man. You can't go to school like that. Did you get your book? Where's your laptop? Oh my God, you forgot your charger. Okay, get in. We got to go. We got to drop you off. We're going to run late. Here I am driving. Oh my God, you forgot your sandwich. Come on, man. Let's get something at McDonald's. I mean, I am going through the steps that I literally went through as a custodial parent. And that's just one morning. And I've carried that with me now. My son's 20. He still lives with me. He has a job. He has his girlfriend. He's doing what he's supposed to do, going to school. And I still worry about him because he lives with me. And I think that's something that is so distinct between a custodial and a non-custodial parent that you just can't turn it off. I can't turn it off anymore. I really can't.
I'm glad you get it.
And I do get it. No, and I do get it because I'm going through it though. And I get a lot of pushback from dads a lot of times when I say, looking back, I hated the term part-time dad. I hated it because I was like, no, I'm a full-time dad. I got to be honest. Once I went through that experience, I realized I was a part-time dad. And not in a bad sense that I just showed up part-time for my kids. It's just that I only had my kids for part of the time. That's what I mean by that. Now that I'm, my son lives with me now, and that he grew up with me, he graduated high school, I really got to understand what it means to be a full-time parent, what it means to have that burden, that stress. And I'll stop right here, my segment here with this. I remember the first time that Samuel went back with his mom to visit her. It took like about maybe 4 months, and she said, oh, hey, I'm going to be in San Antonio. I'm gonna, would it be okay if I spent the weekend with Samuel and this and that? I say, sure, no problem, So I'm over here thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just go out and do my thing and blah blah blah. I spent the whole weekend in my underwear, watching TV, chilling.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, because it was just like, okay, and I still worried about her. I was like, where are they at? Like, does she need help with something? And this is with her partner. and with their kid, and they're there in San Antonio, and I'm texting Samuel like, hey, make sure, if y'all don't have nowhere to go to this place. But I was really just communicating with him. I didn't really care where they went. It was just so fascinating to me to be able to live out that experience, and it gave me a fresh perspective as to what it really takes to be a custodial parent, and really what it takes to be a mom, because again, most custodial parents are moms.
Yeah. There's millions of women listening right now that are, well, hopefully millions of women are listening, but that are going, that are just going, yes, this guy gets it. Because yeah, until you live it, it's so hard to describe what that 24/7 really, really feels like. And it's hard. You can't, so much. It's so much. One of the things that I think a lot of moms are probably thinking right now with this whole topic is another anxiety. What brings on the anxiety of sending them over to dad is because there are different rules and expectations at their house. And we talk about this all the time when we talk about divorce, how you can't control what the other parent does and you need to let them do what they need to do and you got to trust them. But here's the but. It is also stressful. You're thinking about the whole time when they're gone, how stressful it's going to be when they come back and you have to start reinforcing things again. You're the bad guy because they were more lenient, or, all of a sudden you have to play catch up because they didn't do these certain things for the school or for homework or whatever. And these are true. Like I have a bestie who's co-parent. They do not see eye to eye. And when the kids come back, even if it's just for a weekend, they really haven't showered. They really haven't. She doesn't know if they really brushed her teeth. And homework, forget it. It didn't even happen. And so I'm sure the school can see that 1 week the kid does homework and 1 week the kid doesn't do homework, and 1 week, but she's constantly playing catch up and having to be that bad parent that the kids don't want to go back to because everything is so more lenient at their house. So I think that also adds to this anxiety that we're talking about, where you drop them off and it's not that even we can shut it off. It's that, oh my gosh, when they come back, now I know I'm going to have all this too. What do you say to parents that are struggling with that?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I actually went through that myself. I didn't understand that at the beginning, especially when my youngest Samuel started going to school when he was in pre-K, kinder, and first, where he's energetic. He was just bouncing all over the place. And his mom would tell me like, hey, he needs to go to sleep at a certain time. You can't let him play video games, this and that, da, da, da. And Samuel and I, one of the ways that we like to bond was playing Wii. We would play Smash Brothers, we would play Mario Kart, we would play all these games. And sometimes we would run late. And it was definitely disastrous for him those first few days, Monday, Tuesday, where he was struggling not only to go to sleep, but then also to get up. And what we ended up doing was kind of understanding. I had to understand that on my own, which meant like I had to take Samuel to school a couple of times. She would, and I realized like, oh crap, he's not getting up. Oh, he's going. I would drive him to school and he's sleeping on the way over there. And so it took me a little bit to kind of figure that out. What I do now with co-parents, and I think this is kind of a good tip that I'll kind of share with you. One of the exercises that I have with co-parents is I ask each co-parent, give me a list of your rules at home and separate them in two. Separate them in non-negotiables and negotiables. And so what the parents end up doing, and I say, only at your household. I want to hear what you implement or want to implement at your household. And they list those rules. The other co-parent lists the rules. And then what I do is I look for the rules that are equivalent, right? Let's say there's a rule that says, hey, take off your shoes when you come into the house. And then both parents have it. I said, great. That's one rule that both houses can agree to, and just go down the list with that, and then find which ones are the non-negotiables for each one. Hold those to the side, and then the negotiable ones, okay, we'll compromise on these. Let's talk about them. And then the non-negotiables. How important is this that this occurred here and here, and where are we going to compromise? So there might be some things that are just non-negotiables. Hey, the kids got to go to sleep at XYZ. I don't want to struggle with that. Okay, but I want to be able to do this with the kids on my weekends and this and that. And basically, this exercise, what it does is it really shows that, I mean, anecdotally, I would say about 70% of the rules are the same. It's that 30% where maybe there's a struggle. But if you really think about it, 70% is a good baseline of agreement. You're starting off on a really good kind of ground there where y'all both agree, hey, they shouldn't be doing this in this house or this house. So it doesn't really matter. We both have the same rule when it comes to that. That's great because what you want to do is establish a unified front. And then, hey, let's compromise on this rule. Okay, maybe on Friday when you first get them, they can stay up late. But Saturday and Sunday, they got to go to sleep on the right time because et cetera, whatever the case may be. You go through that and you reach that compromise and you start developing a good pattern of communication. That's what I do. That's a good exercise that I have with my co-parents, especially when they're struggling with this particular case. How do we get to a point where we can agree to what's going on with the other household? Because, and I tell my co-parents this all the time, you really can't control what happens in that other household. You really can't. And I know you stress this as well. You can't control that. So let's get to an agreement where you're not necessarily controlling it. You're just agreeing to what's already going to occur because I've already agreed to this core set of rules. And you've already agreed to this negotiated set of rules. And you've already agreed to these non-negotiables that both of y'all said, okay, I'll give you this, you give me that, et cetera, so forth. I think that's a really good exercise. I've done that almost with all my co-parents whenever there's kind of some distrust between both households. But at the end, they end up realizing we both kind of want the same thing for our kids. Last thing I'll say is this, and going back to the previous conversation that we had too, but it also relates to this. I think that's why a lot of folks need to give grace to their co-parent, because we, and I say we as when I was a non-custodial parent, we don't understand that burden, and as custodial parents, you can't expect your non-custodial parent to understand that burden either. So it works both ways. You cannot have them all of a sudden turn it on parent mode the way you have it on, because they simply won't have that same experience. I know that I didn't. I know that I would nod my head all the time and say, yes, I know, and yes, but it wasn't until Samuel lived with me that I truly understood what it meant to be a full-time parent and to have that little seed, that little thought that's always like, okay, what's Samuel up to? Did he do this? Did he do that? That's something that I had never experienced and that I truly understood maybe 2 months into my custodial, my custody, I guess, of Samuel and him living with me, that I finally understood, like, yeah, this is what real parenting looks like.
That is exactly a great example why mediation could be amazing and a mediator like yourself could be really, really beneficial. And I think we've said this a couple episodes past, but moms are guilty of that all the time, of thinking that the dad should get it. He should know. And really, we need to get out of our own head. They don't get it. They really don't. And even though they're going to say that they do, they don't. And so we need to lower our expectations a little bit, because we think that they should be able to do things just like us at our abilities. But we live it day in, day out. We practice it consistently, and they don't practice it consistently. They compartmentalize. They do it. They only practice on the weekends. So how can you expect somebody to be just as good at something when they don't get to practice it nearly as much as you do? But we think that they should just know they're the dad and they should understand. And can't they see? They can't. And we need to give that grace, I think, to more fathers out there so that we're more patient as mothers, and that will make everything a little bit better. I was going to ask you, you talk a lot about how important communication is and how this is going to be really fundamental to building that trust with your co-parent so that we can enjoy our time off as moms. But a lot of moms don't like talking to the co-parent dad. There's this conflict there. But as a mediator, Do you have any suggestions, or maybe I know that there's special apps out there that parents can use for communication just to help that communication happen without quite as much conflict? I don't know what those apps are. I just know that they're out there. Can you speak to that a little bit and give some references to people who might need that assistance? Impactful parent, I want to hear from you. Leave me a voice message at speakpipe.com/theimpactfulparent and become a part of the show. Tell me your first name, your favorite episode, and why you love that episode so much. I want to hear your feedback, and it's easy with SpeakPipe. Go to speakpipe.com/theimpactfulparent, and I can't wait to hear from you.
Yeah, so if you really are to a point where you cannot communicate with your co-parent and need some type of stabilizing feature to facilitate that communication, there are apps out there. One of my favorite ones is called My Family Wizard. It's basically like a text app. It's, but it has so many different features on it. You could actually get this court appointed even, where all the communication goes through the app. It records all the conversations. It records all the text messages. It also has a calendar feature where you could trade weekends. Hey, this week is my weekend. This week is my weekend. Hey, I would like to trade this weekend for this weekend, or hey, this day for the, etc. You can do all the communication and facilitate any and all transactions through that. It even has a ledger account where you can keep track of expenses. Hey, maybe you say, hey, I spent $30 on this, and that. In case maybe you want to keep that as an account of the additional expenses you made.
That's great.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. It's definitely something that I only recommend whenever the conversations are really bad, when they're really, really, I would say hostile, and to the point where there's threats being made and things of that nature. It can also be used for just, hey, let's just keep track of stuff, and that's fine too. It's a pretty handy app, and it has different ways to be used. But I think one of the more important things is kind of establishing and restoring that trust with your co-parent. I think that's really important. I'll give you 5 tips to really kind of understand how to really gain that trust in your co-parent. Because when it comes down to it, that's really what it's all about. Do you trust your co-parent? And not just trust your co-parent that your kids are not going to die. Okay, I'm talking about do you trust your co-parent that they're going to facilitate something healthy with your kids? And again, it's not about what you want. It's what your kids need. Is he fulfilling, basic levels? Now, I get it. You want a little more for your kids. You want this and that. But at the very least, restoring that trust that you're doing there. The first tip that I would give was leave that tension, that past behind. That takes some work. That may mean going to counseling. That may mean saying, hey, I need therapy. Hey, we need to talk about this. Let's hold each other accountable for what happened in the past, etc. Whatever conversations need to happen to make that happen, you need to make it happen. Because at the end of the day, if you don't, you're still going to have that lingeringness, that stuff going on in the background, where you still think hey, fuck him, and he did this, and or the opposite, right? Like screw her, she did this, and she, we don't need that. We need to get past that. In my mediation conversations, and when I'm having a co-parenting facilitation that involves that, I call it vent to reinvent. And so basically what you're doing is we get together, we talk about it, and we let it go. We let it go. It doesn't mean that you agree. It doesn't mean that you apologize even. It just means that you get an opportunity to say what you need to say it then, and leave it at be. And why? Because you're releasing that. You're letting go of the past. You're not here to judge. You're not here to say it. You're just here to put it out there, release it, and say hey, I'm venting so I can start reinventing. And you can't get it. So it's so important to do that. A lot of parents may or may not have already gone through that, but if you haven't, strongly suggest that you do that. The other thing is being considerate of your co-parent. That this works both ways. Again, as a custodial parent, you know what it takes to do what you do. But like you were saying, Christina, I can't have that same expectation to my non-custodial parent. Same thing with the non-custodial parent. Like your custodial parent's gonna say, and want and need different things from you that maybe you're not ready to give or whatnot. But be considerate about that because they're over here, they've done the work, they're doing this, they're doing that. Be considerate of that. Acknowledge when, hey, you do need to do things a certain way because at the end, they're gonna get the kids back and they're gonna deal with those ramifications of what's going on. The other one is really supporting your co-parents' relationship with your kids. When you take your kids with your co-parent and you have all this worry and you have all this stress, and then when you get the kids back, you're like, okay, what did y'all eat? Where did y'all go? What did you do? This and that. You're really not facilitating. You're telling your kids that you don't trust them, and you're telling them like, hey, there's suspicion there, and kids pick up on this. Kids are so smart; they understand what's going on. Yeah. So you can't hide that. You have to trust. And when you trust, it has to be all encompassing. You have to make sure that trust extends not just between you and your co-parent, but how you view your co-parent and how your kids see how you view your co-parent. Basically modeling the behavior. Mm-hmm. And the last one that I would say that's pretty important is making sure that you're honest and transparent. What does that mean? That means, if you really have an issue with something, bring it up, but be tactful about it, be considerate about it, and explain without bringing up kind of the I don't want to say the emotional aspect. I mean, we all get emotional, but I guess more of the logical and the conclusions and the consequences. Hey, look, for example, when I had Samuel and I was taking him back to Maribel, mm-hmm. She would say like, hey, look, you really need him to go to sleep on time. Okay, I really can't do this anymore. I can't struggle with him on Mondays and Tuesdays because he's recouping from the weekend that you had with him. And she told me that a couple of times, and I finally, okay, got to do it. And sure enough, I ended up being the bad guy, right, with my son, because he's like, why do we have to go to sleep so early? This and that. And I had to explain that. But when we're both, both on the same level finally, and she was honest with me and transparent about it, then I understood what was going on. And I was able to move forward from that and really kind of provide her the help and kind of facilitation she needed. So that would be kind of my 5 tips to kind of help with the co-parenting relationships, that you could start doing. Besides like getting an app or writing down the rules and so forth. If you start from that, you can start developing a really good co-parenting relationship so that when you, as the custodial parent, drop off the kids, you can have a grand time and you can go over there and booze it up, hang out with the friends, not talk about kids when you're hanging out with the friends, and just have a good time and relax, because I would say the vast majority of the moms deserve it. They deserve a time to just relax and just be fun. Because I will tell you this, I'll stop right here. When I had my free weekends, not gonna lie, Kristina, I enjoyed them. It was nice. I had the best of both worlds at one point. I had the boys on one weekend, and then it was just chill Rodrigo the other weekend.
And I live for my weekends like that. I do. I mean, I hate to say it. And I love being a mom. It has nothing to do with my, like how good of a mom I am or how much I enjoy my kids or love them or whatever. I can't help but enjoy and look forward to and live for that 24 or 48 hours that I might have without them now. But it's been a practice to practice letting go of all that anxiety and worry and trusting their dad. And it's definitely a process. And with your last tip about being transparent, sometimes that's really hard for, I think, moms to do, because being transparent means you have to be vulnerable, depending on what the subject is. And, it's easier just to be commanding and say, hey, stop doing that. It's messing shit up. And, I can't handle it anymore or whatever. But to really say transparently, look, this is like, it's really hard. It's really driving me crazy. I need your help. I like that part, that transparency. I need your help. So please help me by doing that. That's so hard for anyone to do, really.
Yeah.
Especially to maybe a co-parent that can take vulnerability and turn it around on you and and lash out, and that's going to be a difficult place to be, but it is where we need to start working toward. And I agree with that you really do need to get transparent with that co-parent, and lead the way with it. Maybe be the bigger person in a lot of this to hopefully elevate him as well, because it does take the lead. Somebody has to take the lead to be the bigger person. Otherwise, you just keep spiraling down and down and down and down and down. And it's hard to eat shit. We talk about this with divorce all the time. It's hard to eat shit and be the bigger person. But this is one of those areas that it would be really beneficial to you in the long run if you can get through this and help elevate that co-parent up too.
I love that you said that, Kristina. I think I really, if anybody needs to take anything from this particular episode, it's that it has to start somewhere. Why not be that person that starts that? I know it can be tough, and I know it sucks. And like you said, you have to take it. You have to eat shit sometimes, but that's what it takes sometimes. Just being that bigger person and eating it, and just going forward and moving forward, moving forward. At the very least, I will say this, and this is long term, right? At the very least, your kids will see that you're doing a concerted effort. Your kids will see that, and they will realize, okay, you know what? And this may take years to develop, okay? And again, I'm talking long game, right? I'm talking way in the future. But they will see eventually, they say, you know what? My dad tried, or my mom tried. My parent tried. They were the ones really trying to facilitate this conversation. Kids see this, they understand that, and eventually they'll come to terms with that on their own. That's something you can't control. They're going to be the ones that are going to be able to judge that. They're going to be able to ones to do that. So I definitely agree with you. If you got to start somewhere, start with yourself. Be the bigger person. It's tough. If you need to get therapy, if you need to get mental health counseling, if you need to get a parenting coach, whatever the case may be, do it. You start it. Don't wait till your other co-parent is like, well, they're still mad at me, so I'm gonna wait till we get the relationship going or this and that. I literally had a co-parent reach out to me, and they have their co-parent blocked, and so all the conversations going through the kids, and you can see, yeah, you can tell what's going on there. It's going to be like, now we're using the kids as a vessel, but it puts the burden on the kids. Mm-hmm. And so that co-parent reached out to me and said, hey, I really need help with this because, I feel like my co-parent's not doing this and that. So she's taking the bigger approach. She's the one really kind of moving forward with that. And I commended her for that because, like you said, it's tough. It's tough being transparent, tough being vulnerable. But at the end of the day, if it's the right thing to do, please do it.
Thank you so much for this conversation, Rodrigo. I think that we said a lot of things that might help our audience out there. And feel free, you guys, comments and send us messages. We're real people over here, and we're here to help. So one more time, just as you know, Rodrigo is a mediator, and he's amazing. If you need help with parent coaching, I'm here for you too. We're here to help you, and this could be a great start for you if you want to get started somewhere. Reach out to us. That's what we're here for. Impactful parents, become a part of the show. This is so cool that I am inviting moms and dads from all walks of life and backgrounds to join me in my virtual recording studio. I am super excited because you get to add your opinions and comments to the parenting topic. Plus, you get a shout out your business. Just submit an interest form at theimpactfulparent.com/guest to sign up. Start your Impactful Parent journey by downloading the Impactful Parent app. The Impactful Parent app is free, so you can carry help, tips, and parenting resources right in your pocket. Download the app today. You got nothing to lose since it's a free download. So go to your phone's app store, search Impactful Parent, or go to my website, theimpactfulparent.com, and discover how you can step up your parenting game and become a more impactful parent. If you would like to reach out to Rodrigo Bravo for his co-parenting mediation and coaching services, you can email him at rodrigobravo.jr@gmail.com. Remember that this episode is just a small part of what the Impactful Parent offers. Also available are online courses, parent support groups, coaching services, and the Impactful Parent app. So go to theimpactfulparent.com to discover more. But until next time, you got this. I'm just here to help. Thank you for listening today. Remember to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And don't forget, the Impactful Parenting Podcast is an extension of the Impactful Parent community. Go to the Impactful Parent website and download the free Impactful Parent app so you don't miss a parenting tip that can help you and your family. Thanks for listening today. So go to theimpactfulparent.com and see you next episode.